Welcome to Building Better Bodies with Dr. Carolyn Dean, presented by RNA Reset and RNA Reset Pro. In this third and final part of our series today, you're going to hear Dr. Carolyn Dean talk about something that she is very uniquely qualified to speak about, and that is her presentation on the total body meltdown and also yeast overgrowth. So you're going to want to settle in. There's a lot of information coming toward you, and we're going to show how the proprietary formula lines that Dr. Dean has assembled, called the complement formulas, work to address these health concerns. As you remember from our previous introductions, Dr. Carolyn Dean is truly the partner for the people's health. And she is the author of The Magnesium Miracle, an international bestseller, as well as 50 plus other publications and over 100 Kindle books. She is a medical doctor, a naturopath, and a researcher. She is the CEO of New Capstone Inc. And she is a woman who does not let any grass grow under her feet. She has even more amazing surprises up under her sleeves that she'll be rolling out in the next year or two to support people in their quest for health, vitality, well being, and longevity. As we talked about in our previous presentations, of course, Dr. Dean's number one advice for every single healthcare practitioner anywhere in the world is to make sure that your clients and patients are fully mineralized. And to do that, we recommend Dr. Dean's fully absorbed picometer sized mineral solutions that support the structure and the function of the body. The complement formulas, they are proprietary formulas. They are highly absorbed. Again, stabilized ions of minerals. We could talk about the science of that for quite a while. It's a amazing accomplishment to stabilize an ion of a mineral and hold it in solution and deliver it through a commercial practice. And then they are pure and unbound, and they offer highly precise dosing. And that's so important. Pills and powders cannot deliver that. They just can't. And they also not offer that topical application. You heard in our last presentation about our key nutrient capsules and these whole food based vitamins and nutrients that Dr. Dean has put together with her own unique wisdom. Again, from our full spectrum vitamin C, our prebiotic and probiotic antifungal products, our omega-3 vitamin A and E, which is such a wonderfully unique product. You can't get that combination anywhere else. And of course, our wonderful D3K2, realign our vegan B complex. Talked about all of those. And now today, you're going to see something come together that is just amazing. And we're going to get Dr. Dean to explain it to everyone. And so I turn you over once again to Dr. Carolyn Dean.
Okay, thank you very much, Ginny. Yes, Ginny's all excited because this is my favorite topic. It's called total body meltdown, and I suppose I should say that it may sound like I'm putting people down, but I can tell you that everybody that we talk to, when they tell us their symptoms and we say, "Well, it sounds like total body meltdown," they say, "That's it. That explains exactly what I'm going through." Before I began talking about total body meltdown, I was focused on people with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. This is back in the early 80s. But total body meltdown is more than chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. I mean, the fact is that chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, it's still relegated to being a functional disease. They're calling it more neurologic disease now that we have long COVID. They're saying that chronic fatigue, long COVID are similar. Again, they're relegating it to being a neurologic disease, which means there are no drugs for neurologic diseases. So it's not good news what's happening right now with people not recognizing total body meltdown. Now, in terms of chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, I found that magnesium deficiency and the other mineral deficiencies as well, along with yeast overgrowth, were the major causes of the chronic fatigue fibromyalgia. So, with total body meltdown, we have that and much more. We have the people who've finally been diagnosed with CFS and fibromyalgia, and they're being treated with antidepressants and anxiolytics. People with long COVID, as I said, that's the latest form of chronic fatigue syndrome. We have hypothyroid disease in total body meltdown, treated with synthetic hormone replacement and natural hormone replacement too, but they're replacement. They're not giving people the minerals they need to make their own thyroid hormones. With total body meltdown, we have adrenal fatigue being treated with antidepressants and anxiolytics. Women suffering early menopause and strong menopause symptoms, treated with synthetic estrogen. People who are always getting colds and flus and sinus infections, treated with more and more antibiotics. People with depression, anxiety, panic attacks, and palpitations, treated with antidepressants and anxiolytics. So we have head to toe symptoms, exhaustion, fatigue, pain, insomnia, brain fog, migraines. And yes, there will be patients that come to you all with these symptoms. And yeah, don't be overwhelmed. Help is on the way. But I have more to add. What more I have to add is called the downward spiral. I want you to know how we've gotten how did we get here? And it can be this incredible chronology of symptoms that start with a diaper rash, and that's yeast. Babies can get yeast from their mothers going through the birth canal. I have had patients, little infant patients with chronic yeast infections in their ears that are being treated with antibiotics because the doctor doesn't know it's yeast, thinks it's a bacterial infection. And then the childhood ear infections, colic due to the antibiotics and a soy formula, and the kids get dairy allergies, you get tubes in your ears, you get your tonsils out, and you have a lot of gas and bloating with the soy formula. And then kids develop eczema, it's suppressed with cortisone creams. You get allergies to more and more foods beyond the soy. Asthmas are treated with corticosteroids, which increase yeast overgrowth. And I should have mentioned that all those antibiotics are creating yeast overgrowth in the large intestine. You have the multiple colds and flus with more antibiotics, your annual flu vaccines, which contain mercury as a preservative. And I think mercury is one of the most toxic elements. You have cravings for sweet, and this is yeast overgrowth. Kids with ADHD. The downward spiral continues with dental cavities that were filled with mercury. I had mercury fillings when I was a kid. I finally got them out in my 20s. Acne from a poor diet is treated with more antibiotics. Mononucleosis is often misdiagnosed and treated with antibiotics. There are bladder infections. Birth control pills cause yeast overgrowth. The hormones that are elevated during pregnancy cause yeast overgrowth if you feed them with a lot of sugar. Parents have chronic sleep deprivation. You get symptoms of IBS, which is yeast overgrowth. Chronic sinus infections are treated with stronger and stronger antibiotics because when your sinuses are all clogged with mucus, the blood is not circulating through your mucus. So the antibiotics are circulating in the blood. They don't get to the infection. I should just sidebar here, we treat sinus infections with our Pico Silver in a nebulizer, or the Pico Silver straight in a squirt bottle and squirt it up the nostrils. An incredible treatment for any sort of sinus infection, or if you have a cold or a flu. Hypothyroidism is common. The yeast toxins will block thyroid hormones and damage the thyroid as they cross-react with yeast toxins. And as I've mentioned, hormone replacement with thyroid medications takes the place of the 9 minerals you need for the thyroid. And then we get into the myalgia, and chronic fatigue. And people are, such people who are already broken down, weakened, the adrenal glands are weak, the thyroid is weak, get a lot of environmental allergies and yeast overgrowth and problems with periods in the women, the irregularity, infertility, and PMS. And then with the infertility, toxic fertility drugs are used, which often adds more symptoms to women. So the downward spiral, you can see how it happens. A lot of people will be raising their hands and saying, "Yeah, that's me." But what can we do about it? We can do lots. Total body reset. We've mentioned many times now. We're working on the structure and function of the body. We're using minerals to support cellular health. If you're supporting the cells, then those healthy cells will make healthy tissues, and those healthy tissues will rebuff infections. They will detoxify properly. They will not build up either infectious byproducts or toxins that will affect the immune system. A healthy body will not be overweight, et cetera, all the um, cofactors that create chronic disease. So we have the minerals, and then to treat yeast overgrowth, that's the next step with our Pico Silver and our Flora Revive. We talked about that in the last slideshow. So, yes, I should say, I mean, it may seem overwhelming when people come to you in such a distressed state, but there are common sense solutions. We've done this over and over again with our customer service staff. We've helped guide people using the total body reset. Remag, remite, realign, restructure, I haven't talked about before. That is our protein powder. It's it's a non-casein whey, WHEY, based protein with pea and rice protein powder as well, and our RNA reset drops. So these are made from germinated barley seeds that are, in a sense, they're not a homeopathic, but we rotate them in these gigantic drums with water and a few other little ingredients. And after several days, we're able to tap off the liquid, and that's our RNA reset drops. The barley straw that's left over, that's what I've experimented with because we don't have the $1 billion yet to do a human trial. But what I did on a farm here in Maui that I help support, we put the barley straw in a field and planted radish seeds. And a similar size plot, we just plant the radish seeds, did not put in the barley straw. After the 25 days of germinating, growing these radish plants, we had 85 pounds of gorgeous radishes out of the barley straw plot and 3 pounds of okay looking radishes in the other plot. All the other radishes in the non barley straw plot had been eaten by worms, overcome by weeds, and were just dead to us. So what we know about our RNA reset drops is they support the life force of a plant or a human. So the barley straw plot producing the 85 pounds of radishes had such a life force that it deterred predators. The predators go after weak and sick plants and individuals. But with something like the RNA reset drops, that's our life force, our vitality enhancer. And we can't talk about this too much because we can't, quote, prove anything except for the radish experiment. And what we find on total body reset and treating yeast overgrowth, and they don't all have to be done at once. Actually, we treat with the total body reset for a couple of months, and then it's like people are strong enough to start detoxing, and they start noticing that maybe they have more yeast symptoms, a coated tongue, and some discharge, and some gas, or even a rash on the skin. But they feel good, they're sleeping, a lot of their symptoms are improving, and then we can go in and use the Pico Silver and the Flora Revive. These next two slides are basically just how simple it can be. I mean, Ginny alluded to this, and what we have to acknowledge, though, that some people can be too toxic to detox. So we go slowly. We tell people to hydrate with the sea salted water and take our realign, which is our taking out the trash product with the glutathione precursors and the sulfur and methyl groups for liver detox. We give them psyllium seed powder to help detox the colon. I don't do any purges. I don't go after the liver. You don't purge the liver because the liver can harbor viruses and you can release them. And we use Remag to help detox as well, because Remag, it's not laxative, but it is a magnesium that supports the muscles of the intestinal walls to have their normal peristaltic action so that you can't be constipated if your intestinal muscles are working properly. So people take Remag, they have constipation, they think they have to use all these laxatives, and no, they just have to get their intestinal muscles working. So it's going to help with constipation, your energy, the adrenals, the immune system, etc. Remite, I mean, that's our prime treatment for thyroid hormones, but it does so much more. And the Pico Silver and Flora Revive for yeast overload. This slide, I mean, it's much the same. It's for people who just feel depleted. Again, what are we doing? We're hydrating with sea salted water. We're starting with Remag for their energy. We're adding the Remite, and then the Realign to help with detox. If the colon needs psyllium seed, we use that. And the Pico Silver and Flora Revive, along with a modified diet for yeast overgrowth. In years past, I used to have, such a complicated yeast overgrowth treatment, rotating herbals and just the strictest diet. But ever since I decided just to make my own antifungal, the Flora Revive, and add the Pico Silver. It's a modified, simplified protocol that works better than anything I've ever used before. What affects the immune system? I mean, the immune system, it's like we have to talk about it all the time. The stress affects it, exposure to infectious organisms, yeast toxins, environmental toxins, chemicals, drugs, everything affects the immune system. It really does. So we we approach stress with our Realign vitamin C and Remac. Exposure to infectious organisms, Pico Silver. I should have put in the Pico Zinc Plus as well. For yeast toxins, Pico Silver, Flora Revive. Environmental toxins, Remag and Realign. Chemicals and drugs, Remag, Realign. But we don't even break it down like that. It's more like the previous slides where, we may start with Realign, or we may start with Remag, but we kind of add all the formulas, because all of them, there's under a dozen, all of them work at the cellular level. We don't treat disease. When people come on our radio show and say, well, I have such and such a condition, what would you recommend? And it's like, okay, I recommend everything, because all your cells are affected when you have any sort of disease. And as you can tell, if someone comes before you and says they have 100 different things, You don't have to look at each different symptom and match up a drug. I mean, that's why they have 20,000 drugs in their pharmacopoeia, because they want to sell the drugs and they want to match up disease symptoms with a drug. And what you will find is people coming into you who are on a dozen or more drugs. And that actually is important because you're not going to stop them. You're not going to stop those drugs. You're going to say, all our formulas are compatible with whatever you're doing, even whatever you're eating, whatever drug you're taking. Just slowly start these. And as you feel better, you may find that your doctor takes you off your drugs, or you ask your doctor to wean you off your drugs. It's quite incredible. So, totally compatible with any stage of illness and any drug interaction. What supports the whole body? Um, so yes, I mean, I suppose I've already kind of said this in a way. Um, Proteins, fats, carbohydrates. I do believe in intermittent fasting. I want to give the body that 6 to 7, 8 hours of being able to start breaking down fats, but first of all, breaking down glycogen in the liver. I call it liver snacking. What we do with excess carbohydrates is we store them in the liver as glycogen, and then we store the rest of them, they're broken down, whatever, turned into fats. We put them in the fat cells. And if you're eating every couple of hours, then you're never going to get to the point of needing that glycogen in your liver to help keep your blood sugar up. If you go for the 6 hours, I mean, maybe you'll start to get a headache and feel like, oh, I'm dying because I'm starving myself. But a positive attitude actually can switch that, switch your focus and say, okay, I'm waiting for my liver to start snacking on the glycogen. So that's what intermittent fasting is. And then after the glycogen is used up, you start snacking on your fat. And I like the overnight fast best from like 7 at night. I stop eating and then I don't eat until the next noon hour. And I'm not hungry. I do take all my minerals and my vitamins in the morning. I'm swallowing that. I'm taking my sea salted water. I'm taking my psyllium as well in the morning. And then I don't need to eat until noon. So that's kind of my diet overview right there. You want to hydrate. We've talked about that in all the our sessions. And using your essential fatty acids, your vitamins. We have A and E in our omega-3. We have our vitamin C's and our D3K2. We have all the minerals lined up in a absorbable form. What we've done with these minerals, and we've done our studies on them. The REMAG study, uh, the researchers couldn't understand. Well, gee whiz, you're saying it's picometer size, stabilized ionic. Well, we don't know. So they used a special ionizer to shoot. I guess it's like a laser, to shoot laser through the liquid remag to measure the particle size. So they were computerized this the laser as it scanned through the liquid, and they found out that they found very little, like 2% particles. The rest was clear, nothing, nothing, which showed the size of our minerals is at the picometer level. And that picometer size is the size of the mineral ion channels. So our minerals just jump into the cells and get to work. And we talked about the microbiome, treating with our Pico Silver and Flora Revive. You want to get your sleep 7 to 8 hours. I have a lot of information that give to my customers about shutting down your bedroom, unplugging, getting away from your screens to help your sleep, and of course movement. You have to move at least a half hour exercise every day. So it's pretty basic. It is very basic and very common sense. Yeast and the microbiome, I often pre-talk myself. I've already talked about the 78 yeast metabolic products. But yeast itself, it's natural to the large intestine, but antibiotics have killed off our good and bad bacteria, leaving a vacuum into which yeast will flourish. And then that yeast will grow up into the small intestines. And the yeast buds actually turn into little threads where they'll poke into the small intestine and cause a leaky gut. That's one of the major causes of leaky gut. And instead of looking at yeast, I see a lot of alternative practitioners looking at SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. They totally ignore yeast. And with SIBO, what do? They treat with antibiotics. So you have to look at the yeast. With these metabolic products, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to attack tissues, cross react with the thyroid, even, and they create a toxic environment that actually damages the liver with alcohol and acetaldehyde, which are byproducts of yeast metabolism. So all this yeast overgrowth creates an environment that favors the growth of bacteria, viruses, and parasites. You are more susceptible to getting a bacterial sinus infection, a viral infection, if you have yeast in your nasal passages. And I learned that because when I was doing my hospital rotations, I started to get staphylococcal nasal boils, tiny little boils inside my nostrils that were as painful as an ice pick in your sinuses or in your nostrils. And I realized that I was on the birth control pill at the time. I had yeast overgrowth. And every time I would kind of add to that yeast with too much sugar, I would get nasal boils. To this day, this is true. I experiment with eating lots of sugar. So we know that a yeast environment favors the growth of bacteria, viruses, and parasites. So you want to not treat yeast to make it go away. You want to treat yeast so it's in balance. We've gone over this many times. Pico Silver and Flora Revive are the yeast overgrowth treatment. But I do want to say more about Pico Silver. Silver has been used for centuries to protect the immune system and support wellness. I've said in previous presentations, it is the best treatment for burns, for people who have major body burns from fires, or I guess it would be mostly fires. They put on silver patches all over their body. So it's an incredible wound healer and antibacterial. But because it's not patented, the Pico Silver can't be patented, then it is ignored. And it's not a colloidal, it's a stabilized silver ions. Colloids refer to small particles floating or suspended in a liquid. So as I said, with the laser instrument that's used to measure particle size in liquids, there is very, very little, 2% particle size in our stabilized picometer minerals. Many studies have been done on ionic or picometer silver's effect on herpes virus. Other manufacturers may make direct claims to cure herpes, etc. We cannot and will not make such claims, given that our Pico Silver is legally sold as a dietary supplement. I think I've said most of this already. I pre-speak myself a lot. So this is just to go over, solidify that 95 to 98 positively charged ions with no negatively charged ions in a biologically active stabilized silver formula in the 125 picometer size range. That's what our study showed. And it's best taken on an empty stomach, half an hour away from food and medications, but that's not even a strict rule. As I've said before, dosage can be from 1 to 6 teaspoons a day, depending on the extent to which you want to support your immune system. Pico Silver testimonials. Uh, One person says, after 19 years of suffering with Lyme disease, I feel better taking Pico Silver! Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. I have had no other silver that has ever worked for me like Pico Silver. For a long, long time, I have experienced the Herxheimer reaction badly and struggled through it. Pico Silver has made the difference. I plan to test, I guess, blood test monocytes to prove what I believe is a lowering of my infectious load. Another says, I'm in love with Pico Silver. When I first took it, I broke out with pimples on my face, under my hair, back of my neck. Since that passed, I noticed my skin looks younger and clearer than it has in many years. So that was a bit of a detox. Then, when I read the Silver study, I realized why my running injuries might have disappeared so fast. Silver helps tissue regeneration. Another, I've been using Pico Silver for 3 weeks, and my sinuses have completely cleared after years of blocked sinuses and breathing issues. And the last one, I take my Pico Silver first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, 1 teaspoon in 4 ounces of water, wait 30 minutes and take another teaspoon. I'm experiencing excellent changes in my body. I'm a physical therapist and had rotator cuff problems in both shoulders. With the Pico Silver, it seems that my missing cartilage is returning. I can only think that I was dealing with a low-grade infection in my cartilage. Also, the burning in my feet is going away. So that's incredible. Awesome. So let me turn over, if I could, to Ginny now, because we can tell you more about these bundles and talk about the pro site. Ginny, is that okay with you?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, be happy to, Carolyn, because the thing that we want to communicate at this point in our presentation is that we have all kinds of solutions and options for you that we can bundle and put together to meet your needs. And again, a rising tide raises all boats. You can integrate our liquid formulas with your existing protocols, or you can mix and match according to whatever serves you the best, according to your patient population and the goals that you have for your practice. And those are not just the recovery goals that you have for all your clients, but also those financial goals that you have for your income stream. We talked about the RNA Reset, the bundle, and we are going to talk just a minute about the RNA Reset drops. This product was actually the flagship product for our brand for many years. Prior to Remag coming to the marketplace, Dr. Dean has described it previously. It is a novel liquid barley supplement, and it is formulated to take advantage of the unique properties of its ancient grain seeds and plant flowers. And it is very unique in its application because it does seem to have a calming effect on the body and also on the mind. And it seems to support everybody in a unique and individual way. And as we've talked about before, the power of the RNA drops combined with our other formulas not only give the biological and cellular support that the body needs, but it also gives that reflective support back to the mind because having been tested on the Zyto machine and in other kinds of different applications, the RNA drops have been shown to reduce out of balance stressors in the energy patterns of people that have used them. And that's particularly helpful because when you're recovering from a situation like, say, total body meltdown, you've got to build in a time factor that's not going to happen overnight as the body layers back in the building blocks and as the body begins its recovery. It's good to soothe the mind as well. We also have a fantastic skincare line, the Total Body Reset for skincare. You've heard Dr. Dean talk about the Flora Refresh Skin Spray, but our Remag Balm and our Remag Lotion Plus use that Remag formula, that stabilized ion of magnesium, and puts it into two wonderful formulas. They are very light, they're infused with the magnesium and different assets depending on the lotion form and then the balm form, and those can be used topically. And if you want to knock out some local inflammation after you get done with the gym, there's just nothing better than Remag Balm and Remag Lotion Plus. The difference is the dosing. Remag Balm, 200 milligrams per teaspoon. Remag Lotion Plus, just 130 milligrams per teaspoon. But with Remag, such a powerful formula that is very sufficient. Both forms are sufficient, and then it just comes down to a personal preference. And of course, we have our Renew Serum Nutrient Serum and our Renew Face Cream, which capitalizes on vitamin C. Again, we've made the offer to you, and we would love for you to become a community resource at the on-site store program or figure out how to integrate these protocols into your existing program with our Doctor to Door program. We have account managers on staff on the East Coast and the West Coast who are willing to help you build out whatever you need for your practice, and we want to support you any way that we can. Again, the thing that we know more than anything is the best support we can do is make Dr. Carolyn Dean available to you through her training and education programs, through her nutrient protocols, and also through her personal passion and compassion. As a pro part of the RNA Reset Pro family, you'll be able to participate with Dr. Dean webinars and get continued support for all of your formulas and any questions you may have. We hope you've enjoyed our presentation today, and we look forward to doing business with you and supporting you as you support the health, vitality, well-being, and longevity of all those that you encounter in your professional practice. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Carolyn?
No, this has been a lot of fun. I'm reaching out with this information with a system that certainly wasn't available to me in my medical days. I went to med school in the mid 70s, for Pete's sakes. And right now, the availability of doing online education with all you wonderful new bright lights, I'm just overwhelmed, and I'm very blessed and very happy. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being there. I'll be there for you.
Very good. Thank you.